everybody, and welcome to the Music Rating, Ranking, and Reviewing podcast I like to call Music Meltdown, in which we rate, rank, and review any artist's discography, songs, musical topics, really whatever comes to mind. This episode, we're doing the second part in my top 100 album series, this time going through the records 90 through 81, and nearly rounding out the 4.5-star albums. That being said, let's just go ahead and kick right into things with my number 90. Which is going to be a bit of a contentious choice. There's going to be a couple of these in which they are my favorite albums by certain artists that maybe wouldn't necessarily be the pick for others, but we'll get into it. So at number 90, I'm going to pick the record, Technical Ecstasy by Black Sabbath. To me, one of the most underrated and overhated albums of all time. I think that it is really excellent. It's a great cross between the hard rock sounds that were coming about in the 70s with the weirder, more experimental sides of Black Sabbath, combining with their heavy metal roots. And a song like Backstreet Kids, I think, is a great hard-charging hard rock number. You Won't Change Me is a great, almost ballad-esque song. And I just think that Tony Iommi is absolutely sensational across it, as well as just this whole record. It has some of my favorite parts by him, but I just don't think get enough appreciation. It's All Right, sung by Bill Ward, is a really incredible song featuring a very Beatles-esque melody. And I think that him vocally is incredibly just beautiful. Gypsy is a very fun one. All Moving Parts Stand Still is a really hard-charging rocker. Rock and Roll Doctor, admittedly speaking, it isn't great. If I were to cut any song in here, I would definitely cut that one, as I think it's very clearly the weak link. And I think a song like She's Gone is really beautiful. Dirty Women is a great sort of grimier way to close out the record. For me, I also think that the addition of piano and different keys and synthesizers really help to elevate the Black Sabbath sound across this album in a way that you simply just won't get on their other works. It makes it incredibly unique and incredibly one to its own within the catalog, even compared to its contemporary record, Never Say Die. I just think that it's an incredibly unique and incredibly interesting experience that you just simply cannot get anywhere else within the discography, which puts it at my favorite there and my 90th favorite record overall. Moving from there at 89, I have to preface. I don't like this artist as a person. I think that they're pretty awful. Whenever I really sit down and think about it, I can't deny the impact their music has had on me. They're going to appear once or twice. It's going to be the album Late Registration by Kanye West. He is essentially the artist that got me into hip hop as a whole. I have an immense amount of respect for him from a musical perspective. It's just everything past that. It's hard to like because of who he is. This record is his most jazz focused, utilizing a ton of great jazz samples and utilizing some really great horn work across here. I think Kanye tightens himself up as a genuine rapper. His actual flow and delivery is a lot more pronounced and a lot more dignified than on something like the College Dropout. I as well think that this is just a much tighter batch of songs with some really excellent cuts on here. Stuff like Heard 'Em Say, you had Touch the Sky, Gold Digger is a classic for a reason. I love Drive Slow. I think crack music's excellent. But even then, you have some more soft-spoken, sort of harder hitting numbers and just some really beautiful stuff with Hey Mama, and you have Roses. The only track on here I don't really care for is Addiction, and I just don't like skits in general, but I do think that they really do add to the record in and of itself. And as much as I want to sort of do less with him as an artist, I can't deny the impact that a record like this has had on me. And I just think that it's really great. So at number 89, I have Late Registration by Kanye West. Moving up from there at number 88, I have another record that may be contentious, but that being my favorite by this artist, I'm going with the album Healing by Todd Rundgren. This came out in 1981, so viewed a little bit after his classic period. This is the one right before the ever popular Torches Artist effect, and it would have his big hit Bang on the Drum Day. This one is a bit more experimental than that, containing far more instrumental work, as well experimenting a bit with early art pop and synth pop elements, while still having a great sense of pop melody writing, and the production is always just incredible because of Sir Todd. Moving on from there, just the songs in of itself are really excellent across here. The first side acts as pretty much just some really great pop songs, with the closer shine at the end being 8 minutes, almost bordering on prog. Golden Goose contains some of his classic humor that you'll get in a Todd Rundgren song. You have stuff like Healer and Compassion that are just great pop elements. And then the side two, you have the Healing Suite, which is just a three-part gigantic epic totaling over 15 minutes. It's just really excellent. It shows the great band who he's able to work with on here with being said band. It's just really great what all he's able to do because he's such an incredibly talented producer and musician, and just everything that he is so incredibly talented. And I think on this record, it's able to showcase itself with just the best culmination of its work and its artistry up to that point. I think that it's really excellent, and I can't get enough of it. So I have Healing by Todd Rundgren. Moving up from there, we're having another pop record, and this one maybe a bit less controversial, but maybe surprising that it's this high for me. I have Like a Virgin by Madonna. I think that this album is just pure simple bliss. Just you have tracks like Material Girl, and you have the title track Like a Virgin. But you also have that mixed up with songs like Pretender and something like Angel. You also have the incredible balladry of the track like Love Don't Live Here Anymore. My absolute favorite on here is the closer Stay, which is just really excellent pop craft, which is the best way to describe this. The production all across here is sensational, containing some of my favorite synth sounds of the decade. And just front to back, I think that it's loaded with hits. It's pretty undeniable to me just how strong of a pop affair this is. And it's really hard to just say anything against it because it is the album that really shot her even further into stardom than she already was. So, Like a Virgin by Madonna. Moving up from there, I have a record that I have talked about before, and it's one of my underrated bands of the 70s. I have Futurama by Bebop Deluxe. I've already gone at length on this, so I'm going to keep it a little bit brief. Just some probably my favorite guitar album in general. I think Bill Nelson is just incredible. I think that there are some incredibly well written songs and just really unique stuff. You have almost borderline pop songs with something like Music in Dreamland and Made in Heaven, but then you have weirder cuts like Jean Cocteau, but you also have a track like Soundtrack and Swan Song, which are so almost progressive in their playing, just bordering on art rock at this point. And Bill Nelson just being such a unique writer and lyricist, as well as a really unique singer for the style of music that they're doing, that I think it just comes together to be a really excellent art rock album that I really, really just love. Moving up from there, we're going into a soulful direction, digging back to the Stevie Wonder well, talking about his record, Music of My Mind. This was the first one as a part of his classic period, his progressive soul record, and I just think that this is incredible. Playing on here is just totally sensational. I think that it's my favorite album just to admire Stevie Wonder as a player. It's really excellent front to back. And the songs that he has here are just as good. Of How You Around is a great opener. Superwoman is a really excellent single. It's a beautiful song. I Love Every Little Thing About You might be an even better pop song despite not being released as that. Sweet Little Girl is nice and fun. Happier Than the Morning Sun is beautiful. Just the best way to describe this album is just aesthetically pleasing. It's front to back. I think it's a really, really great album that I can't get enough of the sound of. I think that Stevie Wonder is showcasing some of his best instrumental performances as well as some of his best vocal work and just some of his best songs. In the second half, I didn't even mention the closer Evil, which I think is just an incredibly written song. And despite it running a little bit longer than some of his other classic period records, I think Songs in the Key of Life, I think that's a really excellently fine-tuned album that's just front to back excellent. So Music in My Mind places there. Another album that you've heard me discuss before, so I'm going to keep it fairly brief. The Stranger by Billy Joel. I just think pretty much front to back, it's a borderline perfect pop record. It has dropped down to a 4.5, as has Like a Virgin by Madonna and Futurama. But And this one is probably the cream of the crop in terms of 70s pop rock. Just Moving Out is excellent. The Stranger is a really great title song. Just the Way You Are, Vienna, and She's Always a Woman are beautiful piano led numbers. Scenes from that Italian restaurant is obviously a great, almost it's a really great sort of sequence track with the different elements and the different parts of it really just all coming together. I think they had right the first time and Only the Good Die Young are really great, fun, bouncy pop rock songs. The only thing that I don't really like on here is Everybody Has a Dream. I just think that it feels incredibly out of place and just doesn't work for the album. The rest of it is borderline perfection, and I like it a lot. I love it. That's why it's that high. Moving up from here, we have an album that I haven't really gotten a chance to talk about, and a band that I haven't had the chance to really discuss, despite how much I seriously love this group. The album is going to be Sheet Music by 10cc. It's 10cc, but really the best way to describe them to me is just the Beatles. They had even more drugs, they got even weirder. They are just so cool to me. I think all of the writers, all of the vocalists are just really excellent. And as players, I think that they're seriously underrated. They're all immensely talented at what they do and are able to make this incredibly artistic but very strong moving pop music that really is one to its own within its time period. Tracks like the Wall Street Shuffle, Hotel, The Worst Band in the World, Somewhere in Hollywood. There's a great amount of humor and just fun to all of these songs, despite them being so weird and so artsy at the end of the day. I find it to be just an incredibly intoxicating listen in which you just can't pull away from it after you start listening to it. Just a ton of fun front to back, and I just love the musicality and just everything about 10cc as a group. I think is really, really excellent. I can't recommend that album enough, being my favorite by them. Moving up from here, I have my favorite album by an artist I've already talked about in the last part, PJ Harvey with Let England Shake. For me, this is her most experimental piece, her most unique and really captivating. The title track on here is excellent. It really is able to chronicle what the album is about in and of itself, which I believe is roughly describing events of World War One in some ways. And I just absolutely love it. The Glorious Land is amazing. The Words That Maketh Murder on Battleship Hill. This is filled with my favorite PJ songs. I think it has some of her best vocal performances. And I think just purely from the album listening experience, this is her most cohesive and her most fully thrown together. As much as I love To Bring You My Love, I think this really is her peak. And this is whenever she was able to bring everything together and create a perfect album for her. But anyways, I have one more album to discuss today, and there were three albums by this band that could have made it. This is the only one that did actually get onto the list proper and very high, roughly speaking. I'm talking about the album Dear Science by TV on the Radio. I absolutely love all three of the first three TV on the Radio albums. I think that they're one of the most unique, one of the most captivating indie rock bands ever with their insane eclecticism. Indie rock, you have R&B, you have soul, you have hip hop, you have funk, uh, you have electronic music. They're just such a unique collective. And even to put aside from that, I think they have some of the most unique voices within their style of music. And even more so from that, they have just incredibly well written songs. Halfway Home, I think Crying is amazing. Stark and Howell was awesome. I love Family Tree on this go around. Same with Red Dress, ELZ, Lover's Day. Just every track on here I think is killer front to back. And I think it's just such a unique listen because there really isn't a band like TV on the Radio. They're so one to their own with all of the different styles and media that they bring into their sound. And it's just incredibly fun to listen to. They're a group that I just enjoy having on because I think that there's so much going on. There's so much unique elements to their music that it's hard to not just fall in love with the sound. That being said, though, Those are my next 10 records that I discussed. Sorry if this seemed a little awkward. It's my second time filming a video, so I don't have quite as good as commentary as the first time. That being said, I really hope that you enjoyed. There'll be a link to the Discord server down below. And I hope that you had a good one.